Thank you, Michelle. My name is Jeff Gove, and I work at the Ohio Department of Higher Education. For the next few minutes, I will be outlining the CLNA and Local Application Workbook and showing how the guidebook aligns directly with the workbook. The Comprehensive Local Needs Assessment and Local Application is the Excel workbook that you will ultimately upload as a file through CCIP by May 1st as documentation of the Comprehensive Local Needs Assessment that ties to the local funding application. The final version was posted to our CTE webpage on February 2nd, so if you downloaded an earlier draft, you will probably want to go back to get the final version. When you open the Comprehensive Local Needs Assessment and Local Application Workbook, your screen will probably look something like this. This is the first tab in the multi-tab Excel workbook. Note at the bottom of the worksheet there are multiple tabs. As normal, to navigate to other tabs, just click on the tabs along the bottom of your screen. The guidebook and the Excel workbook are linked and are to be used together. Remember a few slides ago when we talked about documenting stakeholder groups and that being important? Here's why. Because we will be asking you for, that's a nice way of saying you'll be required to submit, the names, organizations, and group affiliations in the combined CLNA and application. You do not want to get to the end of your planning process and be completing this application and realize you forgot to include a representative of a certain required stakeholder group, right? Remember, we want to approve your plan the first time, and if you follow the guidebook, you will have all the information and you will have gone through all the process you need to successfully apply. The information on required stakeholders is in the guidebook on page 6. Don't let an inadvertent oversight hold up your community or require you to go back for a detail that could easily have been done right the first time. We have heard feedback that some communities have had trouble identifying members of special populations for the stakeholder group. The federal government requires the participation of a broad range of stakeholders. We strongly suggest local recipients review the special populations in the geography, as detailed in the Equity Lab data, and ensure that representatives of each special population in the area serve on a stakeholder committee and be involved in the local needs assessment process. The representative of special populations field, highlighted here in the Stakeholder Engagement Committee table, should consist of the names and affiliations of each of the special populations in the district. Likewise, CTPDs must have representation from the community schools and other schools providing CTE in the district. Again, these names and affiliations should be entered into the applicable boxes for teachers, faculty, administration, career guidance and academic counselors, students, parents, and so on. Again, multiple names and affiliations will likely be entered into each of these cells. Please spend the time up front engaging external stakeholders. A failure to include the applicable special population and other stakeholders in the local needs assessment will likely result in an application being rejected by the department. Each worksheet heading references one of the 6 federally required elements of a comprehensive local needs assessment in a blue shaded box, in this case, Part A, the evaluation of student performance. Then, each worksheet within the CLNA has a different set of questions, and the local stakeholder group answers each question for current status, goals, and strategies. All the cells on all worksheets, except on the budget page, must be completed. A not applicable can be an acceptable answer in rare circumstances, such as a circumstance where the education community is not offering post-secondary services or where the local recipient provides adult education only. Please be very careful in so doing, as if it is unjustified, that NA entry may invalidate the entire submission. Let's look at the Student Performance tab in the Local Needs Assessment portion of the workbook, which shows the template for the rest of the CLNA tabs. Pages 9 and 10 of the guidebook provide you with instructions in how to address this federally required evaluation of student performance. The first thing I want you to note in the Excel workbook is the column labeled Questions, circled here in red and labeled as Point 1. You will be answering each of these questions in the cells to the right. Also note Point 2. In each of the tabs, somewhere in the headers, there will be a must-cover statement of what is required to be covered in the local application. That is not a suggestion, it is a requirement. And questions highlighted by a green box align with the must-cover sections of the local application and should receive special consideration because they must be the priorities in the next steps. Point 3 highlights the column headers. For each question, you will answer for the current status, your goals, and proposed strategies for reaching each goal. Note point 4. Every worksheet will have at least one equity-focused question. This is a good time to review the outcomes from the equity workshops and toolkit. Equity is a priority in Perkins V and must be addressed in your local needs assessment and application. Perkins V focuses heavily on closing equity gaps in our CTE delivery system. Do not shortchange equity questions. In the application, you will be required to fund at least one strategy related to closing equity gaps. Finally, each of the tabs noted here in point 5 will have a summary of priorities where, after looking at all the data points, goals, and strategies, you prioritize and provide text of that decision-making process, referencing data where applicable. Please note that the summary of priorities on each page that is the result of your data-driven decision-making will be copied straight into the application to serve as justification for what you are planning to do, just as select goals and strategies will be. Please keep in mind throughout the process that your plan is a 4-year plan, so consider that timeline when looking at gaps and setting goals and strategies. It is entirely appropriate to have goals and strategies set for future years. Also, keep in mind that you will be conducting local needs assessments every 2 years under Perkins V. So goals and strategies can change over time as needs change. When you get to the budget, you will be submitting a 1-year budget. In this case, July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021. Thus, you can identify goals and strategies that will not be Perkins funded in the current year. Unlike past years and other applications, we do want you to list prioritized goals and strategies, even if they are not funded in the current application. Let's look at a second tab labeled Part B1, Size, Scope, and Quality, to reinforce what we've just covered. Like each tab of the CLNA, this tab covers one of the 6 federally required elements of a comprehensive local needs assessment, a data-driven review of size, scope, and quality. The instructions to Part B1 are found on pages 11 through 14 of the guidebook. Again, you will see the same elements. Number 1, the list of questions to be answered. Number 2, the must-covers. Number 3, the column for current status, goals, and strategies. Number 4, the equity questions. And 5, the summary of priorities. Note, here there are 2 new elements, number 6, that ask questions specific to secondary education and then specific to post-secondary education. Now, my colleague, Tawana Fields-Ampande, will continue this technical assistance video as she provides an example further drawn from this tab, Part B1, Size, Scope, and Quality.